In this lesson, we will be learning about metric prefixes. Oops. Now, metric prefixes are the fundamental part of measurements in most areas of the world. I'm sure you've already heard of some of the metric prefixes, like centimeter. When you hear centimeter, the word centi in the front is a metric prefix, and also kilometer. The word kilo in the front is a metric prefix. So I'll be going over all the metric prefixes from 1,000th until 1,000 in this lesson, and those I think are the most commonly used. You don't usually go beyond that. So let me just list all the metric prefixes. Okay, starting with the smallest one. The smallest one that we're going to go over is milli. And then we have centi. That's what you see from centimeter. Centi, and then we have deci. And then I'm going to leave a little space here. This is when we don't have any metric prefix. Well, I can just say none here. And then we have deca. We have hecto. Oops. Hecto. And then we have kilo. This is the biggest one that we're going to go over. Okay, so I'm going to underline the smaller ones with red. So these are smaller ones. And the bigger ones with blue. These are the bigger ones. Okay, and let me go over the more common ones that you might already know. You might already know milli. And it's usually used with, actually all of these prefixes are used with these 3 units. We have meter, we have liter, and we have gram. Okay, so when you use these metric prefixes, you don't use them by themselves. You use them with these words in the middle. And after we go over what each of these metric prefixes mean, I'll give you a few examples of how you can combine with these words in the middle. So first of all, milli means 1/1000. So this is a really small number. So this means if you cut up something into 1,000 pieces, one of those pieces is going to be a milli. And this is how you can write it as a fraction. You can also write it like this as a decimal. These two are the same thing. Okay, centi is 1/100. So it gets bigger as we go here. Remember, for fraction, the smaller the denominator, the bigger the number. Okay, so this is actually, centi is bigger than milli. And you can write this also as a decimal like this, 0.01. Deci is 1/10. Okay, this is bigger than milli and centi, or just 0.1 as a decimal. Now we're going to go over the bigger ones. So deca means 10. Hecto means 100, and kilo means 1,000. Okay, so you can see the pattern here. This is the smaller part. And as we go this way, it gets bigger and bigger, bigger. Okay, so this is the biggest unit that we're looking at. So what does this mean? When we say kilometer, kilo means 1,000, right? So this actually means 1,000 meters. This means 1,000 meters. When we say centimeter. Centimeter. Centi means 1 over 100, right? According to our chart there. So this actually means 1 over 100 meter, which means if I cut up 1 meter into 100 parts, so let's say that this is 1 meter. This is 1 meter. If I cut this up into 100 parts, so that's into 2, that's into 4, that's into 8. I'll have to do this for a while to cut into 100 parts. I'll have to keep dividing like this. Then one of those parts is going to be centimeter. Okay, so centimeter is really small. And millimeter is even smaller. Millimeter is even smaller because you'll have to cut it up into 1,000 pieces. So it's going to be like really, really small. You have to cut this up into 1,000 pieces. And one of those little 1,000 little piece is millimeter. Millimeter. Okay, and another characteristic that you can see, and oh, by the way, this actually works not only with meters, but also with liter and gram. If you say kilogram, that means 1,000 grams. So that's 1,000 grams. Okay, and another thing, or another property with metric prefixes, it's easier to see if you look at the bigger ones. So if you look at these blue ones, deca, hecto, and kilo, how did 10 become 100? Well, we went from 10 to 100 by multiplying by 10. Okay, so each of these metric prefixes are 10 times bigger than the previous one. Okay, so hecto is 10 times bigger than deca. And also, if you go from 100 to 1,000, or if you want to go from 100 to 1,000, you'll have to multiply by 10. So kilo is 10 times bigger than hecto. Okay, and then the same thing is true for the smaller ones. It's a little harder to see with the fractions and decimals here, but it's the same concept. Centi is 10 times bigger than milli. And if you don't believe me, you can try multiplying 1 over 1,000 by 10. And you'll cancel. This will become 100. So that will become 1 over 100. Okay, so this is centi right here. And the same thing, we can say the same thing for deci. If you want to go from centi to deci, you'll have to multiply by 10. Okay, and you might be wondering, what is this middle part here? What is this middle part where we don't have anything? So this is when we don't have a metric prefix, meaning if we just have meter or liter or gram, this just means 1, right? When you just say meter, it means we have 1 meter. Or we can say 2 meters or 3 meters. So when there's no metric prefix, it means that you can consider the prefix to be 1. And actually the same pattern follows. If you want to go from deci to where you don't have any prefix, with no prefix, you'll have to multiply by 10. And if you want to go from no prefix to deca, you'll have to multiply by 10. Because 1 times 10 is going to be 10. Okay, so these right here are the metric prefixes. From smallest, milli is the smallest, kilo is the largest. And this is basically the relationship of these measurements. Once you have this metric prefix down, then I'm sure it's going to help you a lot in the measurements when we're dealing with measurements. Obviously, in America, though, they use a lot of different measurements, not only with metric prefixes, but metric prefixes I think are more widely used, and it's more scientific. Like even in America, once you go into the professional field of science, they're going to be using metric prefixes. So it's very helpful to have this metric prefix down.